Right now, something is happening that could change the global economy in a way most people are not prepared for. And the dangerous part is that it doesn't look like a crisis yet. There is no panic, no sudden collapse, no moment where everything stops at once. Instead, it feels normal, almost invisible. But behind the scenes, one of the most important systems in the world is under pressure, and that system is oil. Most people think oil is just something you use to fill your car, something that affects gas prices and maybe transportation, but oil is much more than that. It is the foundation of modern civilization. It powers global trade, it fuels industries, it affects food production, and it connects every economy on the planet. Without stable access to oil, the entire system begins to shake. There is a narrow passage in the Middle East called the Strait of Hormuz, and even though most people have never heard of it, it is one of the most important locations on Earth. Around 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this single route. That means 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil used globally moves through this narrow stretch of water. Now imagine what happens if that flow is interrupted, slowed down, or completely blocked. The impact would not be local, it would be global, and it would happen faster than most people expect. Right now, tensions between the United States and Iran are rising again, and this time the situation is more serious than many realize. There are threats, military positioning, and actions that directly affect the flow of oil. When major powers start using economic resources as leverage, oil stops being just a commodity and becomes a weapon. And once oil becomes a weapon, the entire balance of the global economy changes. Oil prices have already started rising again, crossing levels that signal instability. But the number itself is not the real problem. The real problem is what rising oil prices trigger. When oil becomes more expensive, transportation costs increase, which means goods become more expensive to move. When goods become more expensive to move, companies raise prices. When companies raise prices, inflation increases. And when inflation increases, central banks react by raising interest rates. Once interest rates go up, borrowing becomes more expensive, businesses slow down, investments decrease, and the entire economic system starts to lose momentum. This is how a single disruption in oil supply can create a chain reaction across the entire world. It doesn't stay in one place, it spreads through the system. And the most dangerous part is that this process often starts slowly, almost unnoticeably, until it reaches a point where it accelerates rapidly. Most people only notice the effects when it's already too late. They see higher prices, more expensive food, rising rent, and fewer opportunities, but they don't see the underlying cause. They don't see the system behind it. And because they don't understand the system, they can't predict what comes next. Now think about how fragile this system actually is. If one narrow passage like the Strait of Hormuz controls such a large percentage of global oil supply, then the entire world depends on a very small number of critical points. These are called choke points, and they are extremely sensitive. Any disruption in these areas can have massive consequences. This means the global economy is not as stable as it appears. It is efficient, but that efficiency comes with risk. When systems are optimized for efficiency, they often lose resilience. That means they work perfectly under normal conditions, but when something unexpected happens, they struggle to adapt. And right now we are entering a situation where unexpected events are becoming more likely. The conflict between major powers is not just about politics, it is about control over resources. Oil remains one of the most important resources in the world, and even in a time where renewable energy is growing, the global system still depends heavily on it. Whoever controls the flow of oil has a significant level of influence over the global economy. Now imagine a scenario where the flow of oil is not completely stopped, but partially restricted. This is even more dangerous in some ways because it creates uncertainty. Markets react strongly to uncertainty, prices become volatile, businesses hesitate, and investors pull back. This creates instability even before a full crisis happens, and that is exactly what we are starting to see. Not a full collapse, but increasing pressure, increasing tension, and increasing risk. The system is being tested, and most people are not paying attention. Today, everything is connected. Supply chains stretch across continents, production depends on resources from multiple regions, and disruptions in one place quickly affect others. This means that a conflict in one region can have global consequences within days or even hours. Now combine that with the speed of modern financial markets. Information travels instantly, reactions happen immediately, and decisions are made faster than ever before. This accelerates the impact of any disruption. What used to take months can now happen in days. But here is something even more important. The system is not just reacting to events, it is also influenced by expectations. If people believe that oil supply might be disrupted, they act before it actually happens. Companies stockpile resources, investors move their money, and governments prepare for shortages. This amplifies the effect of the situation even if the worst-case scenario never fully occurs. This is how fear and expectation become part of the system. They are not separate from reality, they shape it. And in a situation like this, perception can be just as powerful as actual events. Now ask yourself this question: what happens if this situation escalates further? What happens if the tension turns into direct conflict that affects the flow of oil more aggressively? The answer is simple, but the consequences are complex. Prices would rise rapidly, supply chains would be disrupted, and economies around the world would feel the pressure. But it doesn't stop there, because once economic pressure builds up, it starts affecting other areas. Governments respond with policies, central banks adjust strategies, and businesses change their operations. This creates a ripple effect that spreads through every part of the system. And once that ripple effect reaches a certain point, it becomes difficult to control. Small changes turn into larger shifts, and the system enters a phase where outcomes become unpredictable. This is where we are right now, not in a full crisis, but at the edge of a potential shift. And the reason most people don't see it is because it hasn't fully unfolded yet. It's still in the early stages, still developing, still building momentum. But systems like this don't stay stable forever when they are under pressure. They either adapt or they break. And the direction they take depends on decisions, actions, and events that are often outside of individual control. That's why understanding what is happening is so important, because even if you cannot control the system, you can understand it, and understanding gives you an advantage. It allows you to see patterns, anticipate changes, and react differently. Most people will only react when the effects become obvious, when prices are already high, when opportunities are already limited, when the system has already shifted, but by then it becomes much harder to adapt. The people who pay attention early are the ones who position themselves differently. They don't wait for confirmation, they observe the signals. And right now the signals are clear: rising tensions, rising prices, and increasing instability in one of the most important systems in the world. This is not just another news story. It is a shift that has the potential to reshape the global economy. And the question is not whether it will affect you. The question is how prepared you are when it does.